Greetings from Saint Bon. Just outside my bedroom window, I can see the grotto, the cave of Mary Magdalene. Got this absolutely stunning mountain range outside the window. So I'm staying at the hostel. There's the French word for it I can't really pronounce. So the hostel, which is situated just at the base of the mountain. And the message that's really coming through very clearly as I'm here is that the feminine worships through the body. And this is sort of a message that's almost like pulsing in me as a command, that it's my duty as a conduit of the Divine Mother to worship the feminine through my body while I'm here, because I can see and feel that this aspect of feminine worship and reverence has been so diminished and diluted and shamed. And what I'm really speaking about is that there isn't room, by and large now, for eros, for creativity, for sexuality, for sensuality within the current paradigm that people view or interact with the feminine from. So for example, in this space, in this hostel, it's run by brothers, Christian brothers. And as you can see, the rooms are quite, they're quite humble. And the space here is very beautiful, it's very peaceful. But this is a feminine worship site. This is a space for worshipping and revering the feminine, Saint Mary Magdalene. And I find it quite almost paradoxical that we're in a space for the feminine, for feminine reverence and worship, and it's bare, like the walls are bare, the space is very peaceful, but it's sort of leaning into the masculine, almost kind of like non-dual, neutral, kind of, there isn't that charge, there isn't the charge that comes when Shakti is present. It's that neutrality that comes with the I am. And I find that quite interesting in a space where we're here to worship the feminine, because the feminine is the body. The feminine is the body. She's our song, she's our dance, she's our laughter, she's our tears and our weeping, she's our orgasms and our ecstasy. Now, of course, I'm in a Christian space, a Christian retreat center, so these things are going to be extremely frowned upon. But I just find it quite sort of baffling that the feminine has been reduced so much to just one expression. If we're going to exalt her, we can only exalt her in one expression, in her lightness, in her grace-filled heart, in her innocence and purity, in her virginity. That's an acceptable version of the feminine to worship. But there's no space for the depth and the pulse of eros and the womb's wisdom, the womb's fertility, and the womb's sort of naturally creative, erotic, sensual, alchemical presence. And the way that this is kind of arising for me is that since I've been in France, I almost feel like the Sophianic energy that's moving through me is moving through me as rapture of like bliss and joy and ecstasy. And yet I'm going to spaces where the feminine is worshipped, but not through the body. In silent prayer, meditation, we worship her in spirit, we worship her with the mind and in the heart space, but we are denying really fundamental parts of us as both human and divine beings that need to express and animate Shakti. that need to express and animate the feminine, because the feminine is expression. The feminine is expression. The feminine is worshipped through the body. When we dance, we are honoring the feminine. When we sing, we are honoring the feminine. When we let ourselves emote freely, we are honoring the feminine. And I think coming here, the cave is just unreal. It is so gorgeous there. The emanation moved me so deeply, so deeply. I'll be going up there again this afternoon. It's beyond what I conceived it would be. And yet I feel Mary Magdalene's presence in my heart, the Divine Mother's presence in my heart, the Goddess Sophia's presence in my heart, reminding me that as a priestess of the feminine ways and wisdom and lineage of the rose, I'm being reminded that this is not true reverence of the feminine. That we truly honor the feminine when we allow ourselves to animate the feminine. I was in the grotto, the cave, yesterday. Yeah, I walked into kind of this hauntingly beautiful scene. One of the brothers was hosting a mass, a service. There were only a few people in there. And he was singing these kind of almost Gregorian chants and songs. It was just hauntingly beautiful. And on the back pew, parallel to me, a woman was crying. And she was crying and almost like sort of stifling back her tears. And I could feel that she really just needed to let go. And she had a male companion who was, I think, trying his best, but didn't really know what to do. And I kept getting this sense of go to her, go to her, go to her. And I didn't want to encroach, so I just sat and I waited, and I started moving into tears because I could feel what she was feeling. And she tried to stand up, and I'm not entirely sure what was happening with her because she was French, but she was really struggling on her feet, and she was really labored with her breath. She was like, and crying, and like, she looked like she was in shock or something, really, really grieving and moving something heavy through her body. And when she stood up and faltered, and I saw like her male companion sort of looking a little bit amiss, I got up and I went over to her, and another woman went over to her and offered her a tissue. And I just said to her, "Are you okay?" And I just looked at her and she looked at me. And then I just put my arms around her and she nestled her head into my chest and wept like she really let go. She was almost like roaring with tears. I feel emotional just speaking about it. And she really let go. And then it was a really strange, beautiful moment where as I was holding her, she sort of pulled back and she was staring right into my eyes. She had these really striking blue eyes, and she was staring into my eyes almost with this disbelief and like shock. And it was a really odd moment, but in the moment she was looking at me, some grace surrounded us, and her body stopped with these convulsions and this trembling, and this just immense peace descended. And she just looked at me in the eyes, almost like with this disbelief that whatever had moved in her and was moving through her had been lifted and carried away. But I saw in that moment very clearly that when the divine moves us, when our hearts open, when they break, when we are moved at a deep level, at a soul level, that process is not quiet. That process is not meditative. That process is often not meek and subdued. When we're moved at our soul level, our human avatar wants to express. When our hearts are breaking open, weeping silently in a corner won't do. When our hearts are breaking open, we want to let our tears and our cries rip through us and purify us. And we want to be in spaces and around people that allow that and hold us in that, and don't shame it, don't diminish it. When we are experiencing the joy and the bliss of being in love or feeling in love of any kind, just love, meeting the raw material of love in our hearts, it's ecstasy, it's rapture. We want to open, we want to laugh and cry and sing and dance. It is not a quiet, subdued thing to be in rapture. It is ecstasy. The feminine wants us to fucking express ourselves. That is honoring her. That woman crying in the grotto was denying the truth of her heart by trying to stifle those cries. What she needed was to wail her grief out, to let those tears fall unapologetically, to let her heart break open and allow all that comes with that. That is not a quiet process. The feminine is not just meek, mild, grace-filled, light, spaciousness. Okay, there is so much beauty in this kind of virginal archetypal energy of the feminine, these kind of higher chakra expressions. Of course, this is where I've operated most of my life. This is where I've spent most of my spiritual journey, in these higher, more exalted energies. Beautiful. But if we are to truly honor the feminine, we must descend all the way down into this body and let her animate every aspect, every chakra. Let her move through all of us, not deny anything that moves through us as true, to embrace it all and see it all as holy, all as something to be revered. Our anger and our messiness and our need to stamp and shake when we're moving through trauma, our need to dance and sway and move and writhe and embrace another in lovemaking, when we are feeling eros, when we are in our creative energy, when, you know, for a woman, the womb space, the kind of pot is being stirred with that eros energy. Sitting down is like torture. And, you know, the fire that moves in the solar plexus when we are feeling in our power. The solar plexus fire energy wants us to move, wants us to do something, wants us to animate this power, put it to good use. These are not, the lower centers are not stagnant centers. They're not, there are active and passive qualities to everything, but the active qualities of animating, this is the domain of Shakti. To move energy, to animate energy, to liberate energy through our expression is the domain of Shakti. And it is so clear to me coming on this trip to France that part of my mission, and indeed the mission of many priestesses and oracles, and just watching someone doing Tai Chi out of the window. It's a good example of what I'm speaking about. Yeah, you know, the divine feminine role, those that kind of really feel the call to honor the divine feminine, whether you're male or female, the call is to honor the body, to worship through this body, to not diminish this body as wrong, as bad, as shameful, as less than. I'm reading Mary Magdalene Revealed again by, I think her name is Megan Watterson, for the second time. I highly recommend this book. She speaks about this marriage of human and divine, soul and ego, so beautifully, so beautifully. She speaks about the wisdom and the teachings of Mary Magdalene's gospel and what has been hidden from humanity in a way that really encapsulates what I'm sharing here. That we have been missold what it means to be human. We have been sold not even a half-truth, a quarter truth of what it means to be human. And as the feminine rises again on planet Earth, as her presence is restored here through us and through the earth, there must come an acknowledgement that the extent to which we have allowed ourselves to really occupy these bodies, to occupy our humanity with awareness, has been so limited that there's so much deeper we want to go as a humanity. There's so much more breadth to our expression than we have allowed. There's so much more truth we want to speak. There's so much more joy and anger and grief and rage and love and everything in between that we want to animate. And we must, if we are to restore the feminine, if we are to restore harmony and balance and union on this planet again, we must honor both the passive and the active, both the masculine and the feminine, and they kind of coexist within one another. So this is a video I'm going to make separately, when we are animating Shakti, when we are in that flow and there's energy flowing through us and we're expressing ourselves, that is a marriage of the masculine and the feminine. It is a marriage between Shakti and yang energy. What's been quite normalized on the spiritual path is Shiva and yin energy. Shiva is the I am, awareness. Yin is that inward, introverted, passive, reflective, kind of focusing on the inner landscape. That's very normal in the spiritual community. It's time to revive the Shakti yang marriage too. The marriage of the whole union. And I'm going to make another video about how the yin yang model intercepted with the Shakti Shiva model, to me, is wholeness, both together as intersecting models. I've been dancing and singing and moving this energy as I'm here. And I know that this is now part of my sacred work to support the liberation of our expression, to normalize this again, to bring the allness of who we are into the fold of love, none of it outside of love. None of what's true for you is outside of love. None of the truth is outside of love. It's all welcome here. That is the mother's message. That is Mary Magdalene's message. That is the goddess Sophia's message. All is welcome. All is worthy and inside the embrace of love. And the way that we access that unconditional loving embrace is to allow it. To allow what's here, not to attach to it, not to avoid it, but to honor it. Allow it to move. Allow it to be here. Allow it to take up space. And allow the natural alchemy of that to then move us forwards. The light in me honors the light in you. May we restore the sacred feminine together through each and every being on this planet. May we remember balance. May we remember harmony. May we remember union. Namaste.